Hi everybody, Bearded Rogue here, and today I wanted to do a 3 things I love video about Stockpile. So, Stockpile is probably the first stock game that I've ever enjoyed, ever. Most stock games I am terrible at them, but this one is a game that I can actually play and that I found most people uh, can play. It's very accessible. It's not a super lightweight game, but it is what I would call like a Gateway Plus game. And people who like stock games, I think, will like this. People who don't like stock games, like me, may like this anyway. So why? Well, a couple of things. The first thing that I love about Stockpile is actually the way the auctions happen. So I have the board here. And these are how you track the different levels of the stock. But down here, underneath the calculator, you'll have a pile of cards, and I'll get to that in a minute. But as the round goes on, each player in turn order will place their little pawns on these calculators, and the button on the calculator is how much you actually pay in the auction for the cards that are beneath this calculator. So you can start at 0, no problem. If anybody outbids you, like say somebody puts it to 1, when it gets back around to your turn, you can now take your dude off of this one, and you can put it on any of the other options that have cards. So you could go, okay, fine, you can have that for 1, I'll instead take this one for 0. Or you could instead go, you know what, I really want this one, I'm going to go to 3. So now this guy has to move his pawn, and so on and so forth until each pile that's out there has one person on it, at which point everybody will claim their piles and find out what they won. It's an auction that I've seen in a couple of other games before, but it's really, really well integrated into this one, and really fits the way that the game works. So I love the auction in this game, the way that they do the auction. So every player. So talking about cards. So the game's called Stockpile because underneath each of those calculators is going to be a pile of cards. So every player will get certain cards each round, 2, and they could either be stocks in the various companies, or they could be things that let them manipulate the market up or down, or they could be trading fees, which are just now you have to pay these in addition to the auction fees that you paid for the pile that you got. And all of those cards, everybody will have 2, and you'll play one face up and one face down on one of the piles. The piles do not have to be equitable. They don't have to be the same number of cards. There's nothing saying that everybody couldn't just play their stuff into one. All of them are going to get one card played from the bank, so every pile, there will always be one pile for every player. But the number of cards in those piles will be different. And because it's a stock game, and because the value of things fluctuates throughout the game, the auction mechanic is very interesting in trying to decide how much you're willing to pay for any particular auction, how much you're willing to pay for any particular pile, especially with imperfect information, because the pile may have 1, 2, or even 3 or more face down cards in it. You may not necessarily know what is in it. Maybe you put it there, to try to poison the pot, or maybe somebody else hid something that is really valuable, and they want everybody to think that that pile is worthless, and so they're hoping to get it for cheap. So there's some bluffing and playing the other players in the game, which is the second thing that I really love about Stockpile, is that while it is a stock game, it's not all about being able to do math faster or better than everybody else at the table. It also has a large feature of bluffing or enticing other people to to go the way that you want it to go. Yes, there is math, and yes, there is, how much can I afford to bid on this particular thing. and that's a factor in the game. But playing the other people at the table is often going to do better for you than just playing the numbers. Um, the next thing is that each player gets some of these cards that are information cards. So you'll get one of the companies, and then you'll get something that tells you what that stock does, goes up, goes down. And this is insider information that only you have. So you'll have that information, so you'll know, say the purple company is going to go down 3 spaces on the stock market this round. If you know that, then you have a much better opportunity to make decisions on the purple company. Are you going to try to acquire more so you can sell it off? Are you going to try to avoid it because you know it's not going to be worth a lot, and instead you'd rather get something else? It gives you information, additional information to base your decisions on, beyond just what is the current value of each stock. You have kind of an idea of what direction it's going in, and that foreknowledge again feeds into the auction, again feeds into how you place the cards in the stockpiles, which gives really neat integration of all of the mechanics tied in together. It's a very slick game. The design is very tight. Everything kind of feeds into everything else. And there's lots of different things that you can add to it. There are 2 sides to the board. One where all of the stocks behave the same, and one where they all have slightly different feelings. There are identities that you can play with that give your character a special ability in the game, and different starting monies, so that you're not all starting with the same bankroll, so you behave differently based on who you are or what you have. One of the characters, Martha, gives you the ability to actually look at someone else's insider information, and that character has yet to lose in any of our games because they're just better informed than everybody else. So, I love the auction in the game. I love the stockpile mechanism and the bluffing in the game, and the insider trading cards that give you information. And last but not least, I love the money in this game. The money are all the little half-size Hobbit cards, as some people like to call them. But they're full card stock, they're glossy, they're very readable and legible from across the table. Each denomination has its own different color. But they're so much better than paper money. They're so much better than poker chips, in my opinion. They're easy to manipulate, throw around, stack, pile, count. I love the money in this game. It's the best implementation I've seen of money in a game that isn't one of the more traditional methods. Like, these could have easily just been chits, like other games, but I think making them cards really adds something to the feel of the game. Overall, I can't say enough good things about this game. I love it. It will have a place in my collection probably forever. It's one of the tightest designs that I own. I can play it with almost anybody, and now I have the expansion, which adds even more variety, even more identities, or instead of using the same insider trading cards every round, where one stock always does this, one stock always does that, they add dice, which don't randomize the changes. Instead, what they actually do is they randomize the cards that are then dealt out to everybody. So everybody knows which cards are available or which cards are in the pool each round, but it's not the same cards every round like it is in the standard version of the game. Just so many clever mechanics. They also have like commodities that you can buy that are fixed value, or bonds that are only worth something at the end of the game but aren't as much of a payout as the the bonds, I guess, pay you a little bit every round but aren't nearly as they're less risky but not nearly as beneficial as the stocks and investing. It just overall, the whole game is a really tight package, and it's gorgeous, and it's really well produced, and that's why I love Stockpile. So, um, I highly recommend this. I highly recommend its expansion. It's seen many game night at my house and at my local game store, so check it out. Stockpile, Navu Games. Anyway, that's it for today. So, Bearded Rogue out.